What's going on, guys? JHoyt back with you today. Welcome back to episode number 23 of the Chicago Blackhawks franchise mode. As you guys may remember, last episode we ended in a very, very good spot. We currently sit tied for first in the NHL, and obviously that's where we want to be. There's only two teams that are kind of competing for that number one spot. Luckily for us, there's one in each conference, and we happen to be the one in the West. So in order to kind of keep our kind of dominance rolling, and with our playoff push right around the corner, it's time to re-up. It's time to get some players that are going to help us down for the playoff push here. And some of them are very simple. Some of them, have a little bit different role. Some of them may not even play. We don't know yet. But without further ado, let's get right into it so it doesn't take us 9 million hours to figure that out. So the first one, we're going to be heading over to the Columbus Blue Jackets. And this one is basically strictly goaltender depth help. And although we do have two very good AHL goaltenders, this will just give us an added person in our organization that would be there if we need him. He is doing well this year for, who's their farm team? Springfield, I think. So he's doing well down there. Now, I didn't actually write down what I wanted to trade him for, but I guess let's just take a quick look at our picks this year. So we have our first round pick. We have 2/3, 2/4, 2/5, a 6, and a 7th. So let's try to get rid of our 5th from this year. And that looks relatively balanced. 5th, they don't want to do that. All right, what about a 4th? Let's go 4th from this year. Might as well get rid of this year's picks in case we don't really want them or need them. 4th and 5th? I really don't want to get rid of any more than that. Okay, so they still don't want to accept that. I really don't want to spend 2 4ths on a backup goalie. Let's go with next year's 4th and our 4th from this year. And if it doesn't go through there, then I guess we'll just kind of forget about them. But, all right, there it is. So 2 4ths for a goaltender. Not the worst trade we could have possibly made, but obviously I'd like to keep as many picks as possible. The next trade we're going to be making is defensive depth. Now, this one doesn't really look like that big of a trade on the surface. However, it's just going to kind of help us out in a couple different ways. But we're heading over to the New York Rangers. We're heading over to defense as we're going to try to acquire Pionk, who actually just got traded. I think it was today in real life. We're going to try to acquire him. 1-year contract. Third liner, I guess second line, wherever he's playing over there. That's what we're going to be acquiring. Then we're going to be trading away Hollowell. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And we're going to be getting rid of a prospect that most likely won't play for us ever. So that looks pretty balanced to me. Will it go through? Quite close to fair value. I'm pretty sure that's fair value there, bud. But let's go down here. Let's throw in another pick. Let's go late with like a 6. Because it's quite close. So there we go. So the 6 ends up going through. And we're just kind of rocking right through these trades. And then our last trade, probably our biggest trade in a way, but also not. So we're heading over to the San Jose Sharks, who just secured their superstar defenseman in Erik Karlsson in real life. So they must be pretty ecstatic over there. They traded away a couple more people. But in this case, we're not getting Erik Karlsson. We're heading over to Brendan Dillon. Now, usually I wouldn't get a player like Brendan Dillon. I was going to get Vlasic, but his contract at 4 more years is something I just don't really want. But for this year, Brendan Dillon. Plus, my thought is, behind this trade, if we can possibly keep him for another couple of years or so, I'd be pretty happy. But in this case, we're going to have to get rid of Haig. And unfortunately, I wanted to keep him. But in this case, we're not going to be able to. But also in this trade is going to be a bunch of a bunch of prospect defensemen that we're never going to use. So we got Landeskog, Beach, and Ivanov. So it's a bottom 3. Nothing more than depth players there. Or depth prospects, I guess I'll call it. But this looks good to me. Does it look good to San Jose? It does. Sweet. So we're 3 for 3 for kind of the trades I wanted. And they didn't really ask for too much more. So that's at least good for me. But let's go settle up the lines. Let's fix all that. And let's start the playoff push out strong. So after all the trades have gone through now, we got the lines all fixed. Our AHL lines team is fixed as well. But let's get up to the trade deadline, see if anyone wants to offer us anything. And let's kind of move on. And as you guys remember, after the trade deadline, we turn on injuries. And then we kind of continue on our playoff push. So as I remember, this actually reminds me of last episode. We offered some people some extensions on their contract. Some of them changed a little bit. Some of them didn't. Grubauer was one person I did want. A couple AHL guys. Some more AHL guys. We did offer, I believe, Solani and Koivu both contracts. To big contracts. Kane as well. Taves as well. Saros as well. So Solani accepted. He's got a big contract now. Koivu's got a huge contract now. I don't remember the exact numbers, but we'll check on that later on. But as for our playoff push, we're starting out strong. Big wins against Nashville, Ottawa, Vancouver. Move on to a couple losses in a row against some good teams. And we got a couple of good opponents here coming up as well. And the other thing that is kind of noteworthy here, the Dallas Stars, the team that's knocked us out of the playoffs, was it 2 or 3 years in a row now? Looks like they're not going to make the playoffs. So, could this be the year? It kind of seems like it, especially with our record now, our streak, our very, very good team. And especially when they're not in the playoffs, we definitely have everything kind of on our side. But right before the deadline, we still very, very good record. Looks like nobody wants to offer us any trades or anything. Duchesne's still leading the way. We got 90 points. Looks like we're the top team in the NHL right now still. And then Boston seems to be up there, 89 points for them. And then Buffalo's right behind them. So Buffalo made a little bit of a run. But let's go make sure we got 50 contracts, and then let's go turn on injuries. All right, injuries are back on for the rest of the year. Let's go right to the end here. I guess let's go to the start of April, kind of see what we're looking. But it looks like we probably will get 50 wins. That was kind of our goal from the start, in a way. We got an injury up here in the NHL, but good thing is we got the depth now. So we got Pionk. We're going to put him in there. And then we still got Dylan there. So I don't remember if I showed you guys last time. These are our new lines. We moved Ulevi down to the third line just to kind of change up him a little bit. Brandon Saad pulled groin, so he's out till the start of the playoffs. And I believe we don't have another forward up here. Yeah, so we'll have to call up somebody. And that's probably be Gignac, since he's been absolutely tearing it up in the AHL. All right, so after fixing all of the injuries, we are back. Had to make a little bit of a roster shuffle to make everything go through because of salary cap, which I probably should have paid a little bit more attention to this year. But same lineup is in. We had to send Hutchinson and Dylan down to the AHL, mainly because of salary cap, nothing else. So Dylan's down there playing now. And now we got another injury. Boone Jenner, one of the best names in hockey. We ended up calling up Gignac, and we got to call up somebody else now. So I guess we'll have to take a minute to figure that one out. But once we get them in, we got the rest of the playoff push still ahead. All right, once again, everything's fixed. Let's get back at it as we approach the 50-win mark. We could do it this weekend as we have games versus New York teams. There it is, 50 wins, which pretty much confirms us in the playoffs. Let's put Brandon Saad back in, and let's continue on here. I don't think we can hit 60 because I don't think we have that many games left. We have, 5 games left there, and that's it. So let's finish these 5 games out super strong. And so if we can get a win against Anaheim, LA, Minnesota, and the rest of the ones that I couldn't read before this happened. So Pionk, we had to send him down as well. And we got another injury up there, so in the NHL. So we'll have to we'll deal with that as well. I believe we do still have a player up there. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Sejan, whatever his name is still up here. And yeah, so we'll have to we'll take care of him real quick, and kind of move on. Also, these two guys that have come up here are actually doing decently well, which is interesting. So we already took care of this. We'll have to just back out of this one real quick. And there we go. So now Anaheim got the win. LA, Minnesota, Montreal, and Winnipeg were the other two teams. We'll let Jenner kind of ride out the rest of the regular season, kind of resting. Same thing with Taves. Just to kind of give these other guys some games in the NHL. Plus, we don't really need to put them in. I guess if we have an injury, I guess we will have to. But let's put Taves back in there. I didn't really want to like put him back in for right now, just to kind of give him time to rest. But we kind of had to. So who else is there? Jenner, I believe. So yeah, let's put him back in there as well. And let's write out the last two games here. Big win versus Montreal. Another injury. Let's fix him and finish out the season strong with hopefully a win. All right, last game of the season here. We lost the last game, but either way, I'm pretty darn sure with 55 wins that we definitely made the playoffs. There it is. We clinched the conference as well. Only 2 overtime losses. Interesting. So we're getting it done in the regular time. Unfortunately, it looks like we did not win the league as far as the regular season points. That would go to the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's interesting because Boston was kind of holding that down for most of the year, I think it was, besides us, that is. And all right, so we're going to check out the standings more in full in a minute. But of course, let's start with our player stats. And Patrick Kane, although we demoted him down to the second line at one point, he still came up and showed he can put up those top points. But we got a new, I guess, dynamic duo in town. I'm not exactly sure. But Duchesne led the way for most of the year until Patrick Kane came back. 44 goals for him. Absolutely insane. Dylan Strome with a big year. Solani with a big year. DeBrincat with a big year. Koivu was still a pretty big year. I believe does that beat his last year's? Yeah, it does. So he's slowly moving up. And he's constantly putting up lots of points. 9 game-winning goals this year. Interesting. So he's slowly building his way up to that top line status. It's just kind of unfortunate when you have guys like DeBrincat, Solani, and Kane, all his other very, very good wingers. But our defensive third line still put up really, really good points, 28 to 39 points for those three. Very good there. Our fourth line did well. And then the couple of guys that came up did all right. I mean, 3 points in 7 games, 6 points in 15. I mean, that's all you can really ask for those guys. I mean, they came up and performed when they needed to. And then our defensemen even loved this. I was going to say it, but no. Boquist, huge year, 52 points. Does that beat his personal high? It doesn't. So I guess a little bit of a down year, I guess you'd call it. But a couple points doesn't really matter that much to me. Fowler, big year. Levy, pretty decent year. Keith, he wasn't even going to be on our regular season roster this year. But he kind of came and showed up and did very well. Yaros and Severson, can't say enough about them. They came in and played great this year. Severson, great pickup. I don't remember the trade we made to get him, but a good year from him. Saros, massive year, 47 wins. Good numbers as well all around. Obviously, we want those numbers to be always better, but 47 wins, we can't really blame him for that. Quick look through Rockford. Hollett and Gravel, whatever his name is. Obviously, Hutchinson we had to send down due to salary cap. But great years out of them. Defense. I mean, Elliott, Zincarno. I mean, this is our first-round pick from a couple of years ago. So, I mean, he's developing strong down there right now. A couple other guys doing well. Dylan we had to send down is doing well down there as well. Pionk, not so much. But on to forwards. Obviously, we had a couple of them in the NHL right now, so they're kind of missing there. But the rest of them doing well down there. No one really superstar standing out down there. But, they did well this year. They made the playoffs. They got a couple of games left before they start their playoff push. But let's check out the standings, and then let's scout our first round opponent. So our final record for the year: 55, 25, and 2. I think that's like the lowest overtime losses I think I've ever had, like ever. So that's interesting. But 112 points this year, tied for third overall as far as points go. But we had 3 more regulation wins, so I believe that puts us in secure third place. But then Boston and Toronto ahead of us. So hopefully, I don't know what the bracket is just yet. We'll have to take a look at that when that comes out. But let's go through it. Goals for, we're number 3 overall. We're number 1 right there. Goals against. We actually had a lot of goals against this year, but not really. I mean, maybe just scoring's up a little bit, but we're still in the top, what is that, top 6 as far as that goes. Power play goals. We are tied for first, so we had a very, very good power play this year. 25.4% goes for top of the NHL. Let's move on to penalty kill. 82 point whatever that was percent. Puts us within the top like 15. Could have been better, but you know what? It doesn't really matter. Shorthanded goals, I don't think we had a lot. Maybe we did. Probably in the middle somewhere with a couple. But 10 for Carolina somehow. And then Carolina, 10-0 in the last 10. So that's interesting. So let's go back to us here and kind of check our records here. So 28-13-0 at home, 27-12 and 2 away. Very, very similar records there. Happy with that. 7-3 in our last 10. So great numbers overall there. Obviously, a couple of spots we'd like to be improved a little bit. You know, that could probably cause us to be first or, you know, a little bit farther down. It always depends, obviously. But with this world of simulation, it's always hard. But let's go a couple of days here and see who we're going to end up facing off against in the first round. So after this screen, bang. Okay, well, that's not what I wanted it to be, but bang. There we go. Minnesota. So Dallas somehow ends up making the playoffs. I don't know how. Where is, let's go to the bracket. So after all that of what I said that, you know, they're not going to make the playoffs, they must have went on a run. Like, honestly. So at least we're not going to see them until the Western Final, if anything. But we got some teams to go through first. That's either going to be the Colorado or Winnipeg. We're facing off against Minnesota. We got Arizona and LA, Vancouver and Dallas. Over on the East, we have Philadelphia, New Jersey, Carolina, Ottawa, Boston and Buffalo, and Toronto and Washington. That's very, very interesting because Boston, very, very good team this year. Buffalo, very, very good team this year. Toronto, very good team this year. And Carolina has been on a tear recently. So those playoffs are going to be interesting on the East. I didn't see many storylines over here on the West. But the Minnesota Wild, time to go scout them. What do they bring to the table? So what was their record? 41-37-4. So still, they made the playoffs. So they got to be a little bit respected. But somehow, Dallas gets to the playoffs. I don't understand how that one happened. Minnesota, what do they bring to the table? Oh my goodness. So a very good young player in Bo Strachan, 19th overall pick. They got Vincent Trocheck, Niederreiter, Gallagher, Granlund, Zucker, Greenway, Kunin. All right, Eriksson Ek. They got a pretty good fourth line. All right, defense. Okay. Why do they not have Matt Dumba on their first line? What? Huh? We need to go look at these guys' stats or something. So he wasn't their starter. So was he their starter? Okay, we're missing somebody here. Injuries? That's why. Devin Dubnyk. So he goes back to Minnesota. Puts up a very decent performance when he could have stayed with us and probably done a lot better. So we'll have to go check injury report for them. So they got at least one injury. And how do I do this? I don't think I've ever looked up an injury before on this game. So injury report. Can we see other teams? So he's back. Okay, how do I do this? Left trigger. There we go. All right, Minnesota. Dominic returning May 3rd. So what's it now? It's April. So he's gone basically for the playoff run and like halfway through the playoff run. And then Merrill's playing with a broken nose. So interesting. We got a decent team going forward. Well, we have a good team going forward. They have a very, very strange lineup. And I don't really know what to say about them because they're starting goaltenders out, which is the biggest thing for us, obviously. We want to just crush them in like 4 games. But they still have a very good team as far as a good top 9. They have Dumba on the back end. I don't know why he's on the second line, but that's a thing. And then it looks like they'll have Cam Talbot in the net to start the playoffs. So if we can beat their top 9, I feel like we have a good shot to take this series home. And then after that, we'll face the winner against, Colorado and Winnipeg. So hopefully we'll beat the Minnesota Wild, and then we'll hopefully move on to the second round. And then hopefully we can move on to the third round, and then eventually we can get to the Stanley Cup Finals. But that's going to be it for today's episode. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit the like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, guys, we'll see you next time.